sir.
Alrighty.
How are we living?
Can't complain. How about yourself, Steve?
Not too bad. I was interested to read some Kierkegaard and realize that somehow he had developed time travel before any of us expected.
Yeah?
Because somehow he was able to articulate and publish a lot of my ideas over a century before I had them. So it's really interesting how that works, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, like we talked about in the past, like, the ancients, ideas are just out in the ether and they belong to a higher sphere, right? And we're just kind of like these vessels or communicators of them. So
you're accessing them, right?
Yeah, especially if they're universal, they're timeless. So
it's funny from my old frame, because obviously I'm completely enlightened and have no problems anymore.
Of course.
I used to be threatened by that. If somebody else had thought of it, it made me feel that lessened the value of my idea.
Yeah.
Because for me, it was more about novelty and proving myself. And now, in terms of just like the quality of the idea, if somebody else who I respect or who has had a big impact has had that idea, that makes me feel better about the idea.
Definitely.
And how funny is that? So before my focus was on myself, it made me feel worse about myself, even though it bolstered the idea. And now it has no reflection on myself. It just makes me feel better about the idea. And I guess circuitously also then I feel better about myself because I see that I'd come up with something that was useful. So it's funny, like by not focusing on the self, I actually bolstered it. By focusing on the self, I weakened it.
Yeah, I always go back to it's in this dual relative dimension we live in. It always works that way, right? It's always like reflection after reflection, bind after bind. What did I want to say? You gave me a certain idea there. There's something about, so even when you or whoever realizes the idea, it is as if you're realizing it for the first time.
Oh, it is, yeah.
Because you are a novel, unique snowflake, of course.
Oh, of course. Well, no, I mean, experientially, I mean, if you drop somebody in the middle of the jungle and they have no input and then they end up coming up with a similar idea, they did come up to it on their own, so to speak.
Going back to the hero story.
Right.
Every hero is the hero because he realizes the idea over again, but in the same way, he's always bringing it back to the world when the world needs it. It doesn't matter how many times it happens, right?
No.
Like, time is, again, just a quantitative, lesser version of reality, of something that's always there, but always needs to be remembered.
Oh, yeah.
Because we live in...
Otherwise, it could be lost.
Yes, because in this temporal sphere, things are lost. But eternally, they're not.
No,
We just always have to have that eternal reminder, almost like how the sun eternally will give us that beam of light, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting though how you did totally do a 180 or a reinversion of like you were saying, like the ego getting possessive over ideas, rather than realizing that it's a proper reflection of yourself to have these universal ideas, that align you with ultimate reality.
Which, I mean, how bizarre, right? What a silly, I'm not judging my previous self, but like how strange of a thought is that? Like, oh, because I'm not the first person to ever have this idea, I'm an idiot. That I'm just unoriginal.
Yeah, and it's fascinating too, because even with the idea of first, modern people have only a quantified idea of it rather than a qualified, which is the first is a symbol of the original that's always there. And like we said, we're just trying to contact that original eternity that's always there no matter what.
Yeah.
And that's what really makes it first rather than a succession in time. So, I
totally hear you.
It gets pretty crazy when you think about it.
And I mean, even to put it in a practical sphere, so it's like, oh, I won the Super Bowl, but I wasn't the first team to ever win the Super Bowl, so therefore it's meaningless. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you went down the same journey that your heroes did, and now you got to access what they did. Like, that should feel good. But no, for some reason in the realm of ideas, and maybe this is partially like academia and science and how that's like instilled that notion into me. But it's just bizarre. You should just feel grateful that you can say that you had access to truth that somebody else had access before.
Definitely. And I think a funny example I thought of was so Michael Jordan, right? You're never going to be Michael Jordan.
Well,
but you can still enjoy playing basketball.
Yeah, exactly.
And that relates to the spiritual realm as well. Like, you're never going to be Jesus Christ.
Right.
But does that mean you just deny spirituality whatsoever?
I know.
Like, no, I'm going to find my new thing.
I know.
I'm going to make up my own like whether it's Robism or Steveism or whatever you want to call it, right? And totally break away from reality. I mean, that is what Satan did, right?
Oh, I know. He couldn't be God, so he had
to break away and create his own matrix.
Better to lead in hell than serve in heaven.
Yes.
Is supposedly his wager.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just find it fascinating how, like, everyone could have a love of, like, basketball without wanting to be Michael Jordan. But when it comes to ideas, it's like, nope, I can't enjoy that idea because someone had it before me, right? So
it's absurd.
It is a fascinating difference of standard and dynamic that we have from physical reality to ideas, or even especially the spiritual realms. So.
And I've noticed I've been disabusing myself of this recently, like over the last couple of weeks, and it has been very helpful, very heartening to move away from the need for originality or novelty or being anomalous. I mean, that was like something I fixated on as a teenager, hearing the concept of like the anomaly in the Matrix, like the one, like what the heck kind of programming does one have to not only receive, but do they need to be predisposed to glom onto? Like what is that? And I think it's just suggestive of like truly not feeling seen or heard. They say that one of the best tests of whether or not you're a good parent is if your kid wants to be famous.
And
if they want to be famous, you have failed.
For sure.
And if anything, they're like averse to the notion that shows that they're healthy and well developed. And I think that's just any man who like needs to make his mark. And I think we've almost like glamorized that, like, oh, that's the nature of man, is to push and to conquer.
Definitely.
And it's like, is it, or is that an entailment? Is that a bug rather than a feature? And yes, there is a huge benefit to that bug in certain circumstances. Somebody who develops a new technology that helps. But then again, I mean, if you really look at like the trailblazers, how many have actually made things worse compared to better?
Definitely.
So Marx teaching us about like communism, did that actually advance us, or did that set us back?
No,
Steve Jobs with the iPhone, you know, John Reese with the Reese's cup. Like, did that actually make us better?
Well, as we know, technology is just an inversion of spirituality. It's a solid density of what should be metaphysical, right?
Yeah.
And that totally reverses the whole nature of what the spirit is.
Yeah.
And that's why even like with the guru, right? He's the one who speaks the least.
Right.
He's the one whose presence is just enough. He's the unmoving presence. And everyone else who gets heard, they just bicker and try to prove themselves, try to have the bigger dick or try to perform better. I mean, that's a feminine characteristic, right? The man who has to dramatize what he does to get attention from others.
We were just talking about this, showing versus telling, right?
Yes.
That it's like, would you rather have an expert in basketball who bombards you with all of these ideas, or would you rather be on the court with Michael Jordan where he doesn't say a word, but you're able to follow him and emulate what he's doing?
His way speaks greater than any words possibly could, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And same thing with the guru. It could get pretty crazy about how, like, actual activity is, in this world of constant change, a non-changing state.
Yeah.
Hence meditation, hence the silent one. And that's why even, like, God's voice is in silence, right?
Yeah.
So
in peace and tranquility.
Yeah, right? I don't know how much we could hammer the idea of inversion throughout this podcast, but it's always,
we could just keep going.
Yeah, but no, so.
And also, I just want to bring up, so I think you really helped me understand a couple days ago when we were talking about like the need to verbalize, and I think sometimes we can glorify it as like, oh, you're a verbal learner, you need to understand it first. And it's like, is that actually a strength, or are you interfering with your own learning? Like, do I need Michael Jordan to explain that his foot goes this way and then his weight is placed here? Or literally, would I be better off observing it and then feeling it myself and feeling that this didn't work and finding that on my own? I mean, if I don't like reading because I want to come up with all of my ideas on my own, why am I farming out that learning process to having somebody explain things to me rather than just discovering them on my own?
Yeah, definitely.
that to allow, experience to be the teacher.
Yeah, and it even has something in line with like the procrastinator.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
Because I mean, instead of just jumping in, like whether it's the procrastinator or the verbalizer, they'll both have to like explain it to themselves and prepare. But
it's interference.
Yeah, the trick about preparation is you can never truly be prepared for life. No. So you're kind of deluding yourself, thinking that you're going to control something you can't control. And that's even in line with the coward, right? Because the coward's like, he's telling the warrior, like, oh, I'm going to jump in there any second now. Don't worry. I'm just pumping myself up,
Yeah.
And we see that with fighters or guys who work out or anyone who is not truly what they are, but they're trying to sell it to you, right?
Yeah.
They're trying to make you believe that they are up to your level of standard. And you may not even have any level of standard.
Oh, yeah.
It's their own insecurity.
And they're trying to convince themselves just as much they are convincing you, right? If somebody has to tell you they're tough, they're not tough.
Yes.
Tough guy doesn't have to tell you he's tough.
Yeah, there's that old saying about, strength doesn't have to reveal itself, right? It's just there.
It's just there.
So it's like the guy in the gym who has to, like, really grunt and like
make sure everyone's watching him.
Yeah, he's the one who's insecure on the inside and internally weak.
Yeah.
So that's why he has to show a facade of strength. So.
And that's the other thing is they are pacified by the illusion of it, right? So a person who says, well, I'm going to change tomorrow, I'm going to give up alcohol tomorrow, they're actually getting temporary relief right now.
Yeah.
And then that's also creating a space for them to binge drink tonight because they get to say, well, tomorrow, like the immortal future self that's perfect, he's going to take care of it. And then that alleviates any responsibility in the moment.
I had a friend who that was always this running joke. Like, we'll always talk about something like, tomorrow.
That's a good joke to mock it.
Tomorrow.
Yeah. Right.
So, that's a great point. And at a very deep level, that is really just the opposite of accomplishing anything or truly doing anything. It's the opposite of truth, right?
And I would actually, it's almost like that premature enlightenment we talk about, right?
Yeah.
So it's the notion of like, the best thing is to do it. And then the second best thing is to say you're going to do it, right? To commit to doing it.
Yes.
And then, but the problem is that is like appeasing enough of the urge that it actually prevents you from fully going with the urge. Same thing, like you have the urge to parent your child and make them like a responsible, healthy adult.
Yeah.
But you don't know how to exactly love them and support them and let them make their own mistakes. So you control.
Definitely.
You try to control the outputs, the downstream effects, rather than focusing on the upstream causes,
Yeah, and it's interesting how you can control illusion, right?
Yeah.
But you can't control reality.
Yeah, exactly.
And that actually leads into the modern salesman who, look at with virtual reality. Mm-hmm. So you could present yourself as something, just like we present ourselves as gurus on this, but we're hacks and charlatans.
There you go, right? Oh,
but,
definitely.
Especially with the guys who, like, say they're workout gurus and they say they've lifted all these things, but they're just saying it. But in a realm that's disconnected where illusion is dominant over pure reality, you can get away with that. And then people reverse the two, hence inversion. And then that leads to when artificial reality pretty much takes precedence over organic and spiritual reality. And that's the time we're falling into with video games or AI and everything. It's the artificial is becoming the dominant. So illusion is becoming dominant over pure essence.
And we've been in it. So even a photo is an artificial representation of something real. A song, a video, like, oh, it's a recording. No, it isn't. Like, that is an artifice.
Yes.
That is, I don't care that you somehow retained it to the point where I can't tell the difference between, and now we're seeing this with AI. But there is a difference. One is a direct experience. One is causal. One you can have an effect on. Any recording you can affect. You can't affect those who are performing. And so it's inherently a disconnected form,
Yeah, and even for the disconnected form, you are the one even giving it reality by dint of your consciousness.
Yeah.
So even your consciousness is still the center of the reality that the thing in itself is almost like sucking the reality from to even exist or manifest.
Oh, yeah.
So Yeah, it's interesting how you can. It's just like you can never get away from the foundation of God or heaven or higher reality. You could think you can, and you can manifest all these false structures and illusions, but really even those illusions depend on some sort of foundation. Right? So yeah, there's never getting away from what is ultimate.
But in all things, moderation, all things including moderation.
Yeah.
So while we say this, we actually would also argue that sometimes artificial things could actually be more true than real things. Right?
Yeah.
Just like the metaphor
As
or
long
the
as they're
parable.
aligned with the principle,
Yes,
which
yes,
is the
yes.
higher reality. Yeah.
And that's why, connection is more relevant to the realness.
Yes, precisely.
If something is well connected and artificial, it's better than if it's real and disconnected.
Yeah, the parable is so real, and it's a hyper reality because it expresses hyper reality better than anything we do in this reality can in this lesser reality.
Yeah.
Whereas if you create just an artificial video game like GTA, where you're just stealing cars and whatnot, there's no real principle there. It's kind of anti-principle at that
Right.
point. Yeah.
And the other thing is there is an argument from like a learning perspective that it's not that the parable contains more truth, it's that you're better able to access the truth from it because you're in a less threatened state because it's play.
Yeah.
Right? So if like you and I are having like a serious discussion, I love this. Like these two roommates, they only argue through puppets.
Nice.
Whenever they have a dispute.
Yeah.
So they like put on a fake voice and like just the comedy and the playful spirit of it like completely cuts any tension. They can't be angry at each other while they're hearing it in a silly voice,
hilarious.
right? So similarly, a parable, because it's in a fictionalized format and it's about somebody else, not about you, it's not necessarily that it just contains more truth than if you launch like a direct lesson or attack on me. But to do so orthogonally is what creates the space for me to not have my threat system activated, for my ego to not interfere.
Definitely, yeah.
So maybe it's just more about receptivity.
Yeah.
At any rate.
Yeah.
So Kierkegaard, that thief, do tell.
Yeah, so I figure...
What is provocations?
Well, so we said we're just going to have a little opening of his history.
Yeah.
And we're actually going to obviously be going over the sickness unto death. This is the first episode of the series. But we just wanted to open up with some information. And this just has some condensed information about his history just to quickly get into.
Yeah, tell us about him.
So yeah, I think he was born in 1813, and he died in 1855 at the age of 42.
Yikes.
So he had a very short life, but I guess one of the most interesting factors about him, and every study or writer about Kierkegaard, they say how like his personal life was pretty connected to his writing.
Okay.
I never like to overemphasize personal life on universal truths. Because,
I thought you were a postmodernist, that it's all about context.
That's true, yeah. But one thing that's interesting about him, I guess, he was the youngest of 7 kids. And he was actually, his father, I forgot exactly how it worked out, and it doesn't give into the specifics, but Kierkegaard was the son of a maid his father married, who he had an affair with after his original wife died. So Kierkegaard, he may have been the half-brother. He was
to the other siblings.
Yeah, he was the last son. And there was this period of rapid death in his family where 3 of his sisters died, 2 of his brothers, and then his mom.
Oh my gosh.
And it was all in like rapid succession. So, I mean,
terrible.
Five deaths like that obviously affected him at a young age. And he was left with a melancholy father because at the time he was born, I think his father was like 58 years old. And his mother was like 45. So he was like born to older parents.
Miracle baby.
Yeah.
Back then.
Yeah, so that was, obviously that affected him a lot. And then I think they say the first big break was his father's death, naturally. And then the main romantic interest that everyone likes to romanticize is his engagement to Regine Olsen.
Okay.
He met her, I believe, when she was 14, and he was like 26. And then I think they were engaged when she was 17. And ultimately, he had to break the engagement. He didn't believe that he had the faith to be a husband, to be what some people would call a normal person and live an ordinary life. And there was like episodes of where he would break down crying in front of her and reveal like who he was behind the mask, that he wasn't just this like grand literary wit who was unaffected by anyone. So sort of like that superhuman intellect. He would kind of reveal his faithless despair, and that's kind of he would reveal ultimately, in a way, who he was, right? And she didn't care. She was begging to like not to break the engagement, but he just couldn't do it. So, in almost like a House-like manner, and I say House from the TV show, The Doctor House, and it's sort of a House would do it in an immature, sort of juvenile way. Kierkegaard, he does it more of an idealistic, like fictionalized way, which is he made everyone believe he was sort of a cad. He began acting like a womanizer. He would literally go to the theater just 5 minutes out of every night just to be seen there and to cause a stir, and then leave and go home and write again.
Nice. Bruce Wayne style.
Yeah, so basically to save Regine's honor, he destroyed his own reputation. She ended up getting married. He was a little broken by the fact that it only took her 3 months to get engaged after he broke his engagement. But still, all his life, he pretty much, he wrote a lot. I know repetition was written for Regine in a sense, because he used the example of his relationship under fictionalized names, basically. And basically, she was the only one who could decode that and understand that. But all of her life, she read all of his works with her husband out loud. So it was kind of an odd situation.
He read for her? Women couldn't read back then? Or?
I think she read for him.
Oh, okay.
Or he read for her. Either way. Yeah.
And I wanted to let you finish the thought, but unfortunately we're going to have to stop this series. I cannot abide by a man who would take advantage of a young woman like that. And that's
horrible.
Completely unimaginable.
He's a cad.
As a proud presentist,
yes.
In no way was it ever acceptable for anybody to have ever been in any sort of connection with somebody under the age of 18.
That is, yeah.
Whatsoever.
He's a cad.
A cad. I mean, we use these these esoteric words in order to justify violence in its greatest form, because we all know the superior model is to let that 14-year-old woman grow to the age of 44 after decades of
useless
very
life.
predictable, not useless, the highest use of being used by men, by having to use the services of Planned Parenthood.
Experimenting with who she is and discovering who she is beneath the surface of virginity.
Yeah, hashtag girl boss. I mean, I see nothing wrong with that.
I mean, today's world...
This is despicable.
I mean, today's world, isn't spirituality just sexual experiment? I mean, can't we get all of our spiritual values just from lesbianism and being gay?
I mean, I don't understand how somebody would ever want to maximize the time that they spend with their children.
I know.
By having them at a young age.
You could easily get that same value from a dildo going up your anus.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, that will give you all the enlightenment you need.
Oh my gosh.
After that, you're basically a man or a woman, and you just know everything about the world. So all it takes is one good shove up there.
So like the truest expression of femininity would be a woman who is being used by several men at one time, not only in different relationships, but actually in one experience. That's where she's her truest self.
As long as you're transcending the anus, anything is possible. Oh my gosh. That's where true infinity is.
We'll be right back.
So anyways, that's Kierkegaard's
him in a nutshell
love story.
Yeah.
And the one last thing that in his life was his he had this, like, what would you say, almost this battle or this warfare with this magazine that was a really coarse magazine that would just have all this toilet humor about people and caricature and parody them. And Kierkegaard, they actually liked Kierkegaard because of his wit. But he couldn't stand being liked by them, so he totally ruined the relationship, and he basically became the butt of their jokes for years. And his name became synonymous with a joke at the time. Like, throughout all of his country, the name Soren, no one would name their kid that because it meant like the biggest clown you could think of.
Yeah.
And even in the streets, like, kids would make fun of them because they made fun of his pant size for being different lengths and, his broken gait as he walked.
Like the literary Bill Buckner. He became the butt of every joke, huh?
Yeah, and he on the outside he showed no effect. He still went through his same stroll through the town every day, but on the inside it like really damaged him. But he saw it as destiny because in the long run it only gave him greater faith, and it made his it just motivated him to write more about spiritual religious matters, even more so than his aesthetic interests. So.
It weakened his false connections to the world and deepened his connections to himself and God.
Yeah, it totally broke him with the world. Yeah, and that was his destiny. Time, right? That was his destiny. Yeah. So yeah, from there we could start with going through the opening of the actual book we're studying.
Let's do it. So what is despair?
What is despair? Yeah, we could go through line by line. Like we said, I don't expect this. I expect this to almost be like a Bible study where we get through like maybe 2 lines at most.
Oh my gosh, we're going line by line? Okay.
No, not line by line.
Let's do it. We can do it.
Just some of the more important ones. But I think even those lines are just going to create conversations that last way too long. Okay.
I'm just here as the face.
What was your main? Well, you can say your main impression of Kierkegaard, since you are the first-time reader of him, and you have more of a novel.
I probably read him in college at some point, possibly.
I mean, they barely teach him unless you take an existential class.
Yeah.
Because he's not like a systematic writer, so he's got no use besides like spiritual upbuilding. And what use is that?
It's funny. My biggest connection to Kierkegaard is a line in a song. It's a beautiful song. I'm forgetting the name of it now. It's a woman singing about how she sees her boyfriend at the table reading Kierkegaard. Like that. I don't know why. Whatever. That just left such a strong impression.
I got to hear this song now, because you rarely hear, especially in music, any reference to like a philosopher.
You're sitting at the coffee table reading Kierkegaard. Not anyone else but you. That's the Moldy Peaches song. Yeah, it's such a beautiful song too. At any rate, we'll talk about it another time. It's like he realizes his whole life is not satisfying him, and she's narrating how she tells him that she just wants to live life with him, and they could move to Mozambique, they could go anywhere. That he thought that she just wanted the mundane life that they had crafted. That she was in love with the life or the context. And she revealed that her connection to him is what she cared about most, which is what makes it like such a beautiful song. Nice. I haven't heard it. Yeah, it was this obscure song. At any rate, we'll talk about it afterwards. So, yeah, I mean, my biggest impression is that he's a thief. You know, yes. It was just crazy.
The master thief.
Yeah, right.
And that's his main figure that he likes. He always talks about the master thief.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so. Which is some character from fairy tale and folklore.
Okay. Yeah. And I mean, maybe it's a simple concept. It's one I wish I would have mastered earlier, but I obviously didn't have the capacity to. I take him to talk about despair as in the resistance, and resistance could take multiple forms. It could take actually, no, is resistance the right word that I'm looking for? It's, yeah, I guess so. Basically, that there is a certain, okay, we'll start over. Okay. Animals do not have a self. They do not have consciousness. They don't have those capacities, right? Argue about elephants or whales, but let's just keep it clean.
Or at least lower.
Yeah, right. We'll keep it clean. So humans, animals created in God's image, we have a self, we have consciousness, and the presence of the self, my initial instinct was it's what disconnects us from God, but then I realized it's the very conduit or vehicle to connect to God. And without the proper ordering of that connection, we get put into a fork, which is even before then, some people, you could say they don't even have a self. That they are, or at least they're not aware that the self exists.
Yes.
They're operating more as animals.
Yes.
And therefore, they don't even understand there's a conduit to God.
Yes.
They're just acting reflexively, right?
Yeah.
The people who become aware of the self, they feel like there are two options because they've been conditioned to believe that they're in control and they need to exert force in some way. And their options are to either erase the self, to try to kill the self, which interestingly enough, like as of 6 weeks ago, it was just like constant conversations with ChatGPT from me where I was asking it like, Well, I mean, it makes sense to want to like kill the self, so all you are is like a vehicle or a vessel for God and Jesus, right? And like it made sense at the time because I had so wholly failed at mastering myself, which is the other road, right? So they either want to destroy the self or they want to bring it to submission. And I finally got to a point where I'm like, I don't think I can whip it into submission. Like I'm finally at the end of my rope of like feeling like I've tried everything I can and it's not working.
Yeah.
So we get tricked into thinking there is this fork. And really we see it as like, well, these people are just mindless and being controlled by their self. And then we have those two options. But the final option, the transcendent option, is to trust that your self will naturally connect to God and orient itself without having to exert force either in resisting against it or trying to master it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you brought up an interesting idea. I want to backtrack a little bit.
Please, yeah.
It actually carries over into a conversation we were having the other day.
Okay.
It's sort of, it's a little off topic.
No, it's fine. We're just having fun.
So it talked about, when you said how, and we've talked about this a little bit before, about how certain people are unconscious and that makes them almost lack a self in a way, right? Mm-hmm. Now, it's sort of interesting because I'll have to start with Adam. We always have to start with some foundation.
Okay.
So Adam was originally, we could say something whole or let's say fulfilled, right? And he fell from that state.
Okay.
After that, we almost begin in a state of unconscious, then we build towards consciousness. So again, the inversion of the world, right? Mm-hmm. We have to get to where Adam started. Adam started and he fell to a place, and that fallen place is our fallen beginning. So Adam's origins are they're pretty much the opposite of the average human's origins after that.
We want to get to where Adam started.
Yeah,
Now, did he have a self?
So that's the question, right? It could get a little murky. Compared to us, he did. And I think for the sake of what we're talking about...
Or was it perfectly aligned? Did he have a self and it was perfectly aligned with God?
Yes. So he had some state that was not fallen yet, right? And then he fell, and now we always begin in a fallen version of that. And now what's interesting about that is... so we begin with a state of unconsciousness, in a sense. We start as kids.
You mean at a young age? Okay.
Yeah, or at least a lower level of consciousness, right?
Yeah.
And then I put it in this structure. Mm-hmm. And this relates to some people who maybe never acquire a self or never learn their self or develop whatever word we want to use. Mm-hmm. So let's use the example of a good girl who's born in a good family, right?
Yeah.
So if in a world of duality, good never knows that it's good. It just remains unconscious unless it comes against its opposite. Hence, good girl seeks bad boy. When good girl seeks bad boy, the bad boy's opposition to her actually reveals to her good. Mm-hmm. And the bad boy actually reveals that he's bad. And hence an integration occurs from there. Now, however, so basically what was unconscious in the good state by itself, a sort of miniature micro paradise, becomes conscious of itself through its opposite within this dual structure of this existence that we're in. So the person who doesn't have that integration, they could remain unconscious, whether it's good or bad, and that is almost like a lesser version of good or bad. And I don't know how much it's possible. I mean, obviously, a lot of people are unconscious, but everyone experiences pain. Everyone goes through a loss of innocence. Mm-hmm. So therefore, this process occurs naturally. So I guess it's just sort of I don't know. Now I guess I'm trying to make sense of the person who remains conscious after that is the person who doesn't integrate. They're the one who chooses either to deny that they're bad, or they just choose to shut out the truth that the bad boy brings to the good girl, and she refuses to integrate her shadow, essentially. And I guess those would be the people who never integrate into a full self, something like that.
Yeah, okay, let's see. Let's start off with, what do you mean by an adult who is not conscious? So that person who is what? I mean, do we actually believe that there are adults who are in that unconscious state where they're not either trying to control the self or destroy it?
So I guess, and this will go back to Kierkegaard right here. If you're spiritually unconscious, and that's a despair state, and that means you're really unconscious. So you could be as conscious as you want in this world. You could be the smartest person.
Yeah, right.
But if you disconnect from God, and you disconnect from higher awareness, you're truly unconscious. At least we could qualify it as spiritually for the secular people out there. Mm-hmm. So, okay. And that would be continuing in corruption. So when the good girl meets bad boy, she turns bad with the bad boy, rather than integrating what she learned to truly learn what the good is and make the good conscious by virtue of a foundation of knowing what evil is now. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think I just kind of wanted to sort of flirt with that idea, and I think it just sort of does characterize an unconscious person compared to a conscious person. Because consciousness truly is just higher awareness of God. Mm-hmm. So if you deviate from that satanically, you are becoming unconscious. Even if your consciousness is like a scientific genius,
yeah, right,
you're still hiding in that little matrix of yours as a shell or pod away from God.
Yeah, consciousness is doing some crazy work, because I think when we hear it, we think of it as awareness.
Yes, yeah.
But the way Kierkegaard's talking about it, and the way we would talk about it as true awareness, would be awareness of the infinite.
Yeah.
It would be consciousness of our place in the true scheme, right?
Yep.
So you could chain up a kid in a room, and his consciousness is only that room, right?
Yes, yeah.
He could be very aware and very conscious of all the entailments, and then no awareness of the broader world.
Yep.
And what we're saying is, even if somebody is an expert level scientist who looks like he is more conscious and aware than even the most faithful servant of God, he is ultimately ignorant to the greater consciousness, which is the connection to God and our role as, beings created in God's image.
Yeah, because if you're not aware of ultimate reality, you're ultimately aware of nothing.
Yeah, I mean, it's like being an expert in a video game and having no understanding of the greater culture within which it's nested.
It's essentially matrix knowledge or matrix consciousness. Right. You're still trapped in the matrix, and the matrix is an illusion compared to all that surrounds and subsumes the matrix.
Yeah. So I was getting a little stuck on the good girl and the bad boy, because I felt like we were moving into a moral realm where we're actually focusing on, or at least Kierkegaard was in the first section, focusing on, it's not about good or bad, it's about the way in which you deal with your consciousness, right?
Yeah.
So let's take a step back and think about the unconscious people, right? Because earlier I suggested is really anybody unconscious, and now, with our new frame, most people are unconscious, yes, right?
Especially in today's world. Yeah.
So you could be, let's say before that moment of consciousness, let's assume that there are these two people that one day become conscious, right? In their 30s, they start questioning their place in the world, and let's even say they both, become Christians, or they connect with God, right? And supposedly become conscious, and maybe they even don't try to erase or control, but they just naturally connect with God. They allow God to connect with them, right?
Yeah.
So before then, one situations led them to become disconnected and express themselves as bad, right? The boy, because he wasn't connected to God, he wasn't connected to his family, he wasn't connected to himself, he developed all these, maladaptive, they're just adaptive.
Yeah.
We'll just say unsavory adaptations, right? Like a man who uses violence instead of his words to deal with conflict, right? That was an adaptation for him. That's the reason he developed that, right? And now, but it wasn't willful, and he is not conscious of the greater sphere. Then you have the girl, you said the good girl, right? And she is one who had we'll say, a healthy situation that allowed her to, maybe she didn't connect to God because she's unconscious at this point, but she connected to her parents, she connected to herself, she had a lot of friends, right? And she is the good girl because all of her adaptations look healthy, right? She's kind and quiet and whatever. Okay, so you were saying that the synthesis was across good and bad, not a synthesis between control and erasure, right? When you said the presence of the shadow, because, does she necessarily have those bad elements of the bad boy in her shadow self? Because you were saying he is the shadow of her, right?
Yeah.
So how did you, or if you wouldn't mind, now that I've reframed it, can you do that again?
Yeah, so unless good knows what bad is, it's not really going to know what good is. Just within the framework of duality.
Right.
So the good will...
The contrast. Good is just it until you see bad, and then you know it's good by comparison.
And good is like the analogy or microcosm for consciousness in this situation.
Okay.
So good and consciousness become conscious through the bad boy. And once that integration occurs, then it becomes a whole conscious being, so to say. And I guess in terms of our human situation with the girl, it's the reverse of Adam's journey, right?
Okay.
Adam started on high and he fell. It's our rites of passage to suffer to get back to Adam where Adam was. So it's almost like through this suffering or through this shadow, we build our consciousness ever greater of God, of higher reality. And that's almost like a functional purpose of suffering.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I guess I'm getting stuck on that girl who, let's say she had sufficient connection that she developed, even though it's like now we're going to use consciousness in another frame. She didn't consciously create those traits that made her the good girl.
Yeah.
Right? So she almost is like, she was just programmed by her parents to be this way, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I get what you mean that she's not conscious.
It's almost like her matrix. And then her matrix comes against his, and they actually free each other through breaking each other's matrix.
Because they both thought their way was all there was until they saw another way?
It was all they knew. Yeah, so and that's why it's going to go so bad, right? Like the bad boy's going to break the good girl, but in the long run, the good girl's goodness is going to stick with him and ultimately probably break him, unless he chooses to remain in his satanic sort of corruption. So I think the interesting thing is, I think it's a way of describing our human condition at this point in time in the modern world, because the modern condition is relative in a way, right? This is kind of just the way we progress in this condition that we start in is broken in a way, with original sin, however you want to frame it. Whereas with Adam, obviously, he had a different condition. I mean, he was different than our humanity in a sense. He started whole, he started really immortal. I mean, he lost an undying
They didn't
life.
know death until after.
So I think this is where you're getting at.
Okay.
That infinite principle, that infinite eternal life is always with us. It's just being formed and expressed in a different mode based on our broken condition. So the good girl, she truly is, and the boy and all of us, we truly all spawn from the same infinite source.
Yeah.
But the way to realize that and get back connected to God through traditional forms and the rites of passages is the suffering that's connected with original sin.
Yeah. So steelman that a little bit for me. Why is the suffering necessary?
Well, because existence is suffering.
Okay.
It's just attached. Like, as you grow, it's going to hurt a little bit. If we don't eat, we get hungry. Original sin, I mean, that in its sense is kind of just like, isn't that kind of like the wall or the steel man of Christianity is original sin? Like,
yeah. The thing is, I'm like working through some different frames. So when I hear like suffering, I think not about the pain, but about making harmful meaning from the pain.
Well, here's the thing, too.
So we're probably just using different frames of suffering.
Well, this entire life is based on death.
Uh-huh.
And death is like the ultimate sort of suffering. So a life that's founded on death, like, basically is characterized by suffering.
Interesting. Yeah.
That's why Adam, who couldn't die originally, paradise didn't know suffering. Mm-hmm. But the fallen condition is suffering by definition of being fallen and being dying.
So I think the two things that are sticking out for me is, one, with a Christian frame, death is actually not the ultimate form of suffering, but the ultimate form of reconnection. Right? And not only in a Christian frame, in a lot of frames where they believe like
but to even get there,
death is like redemptive, right?
Suffering.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to yuck your yum. Even framing it as suffering, right? So it's like the most painful experience in life, if it is experienced while feeling fully safe because you are truly connected to God, you are truly connected to your loved ones, if you have sufficient safety and support, I don't know that I would interpret that intense pain as suffering. And again, this is probably just semantic, right?
But I think even needing that frame implies the suffering. So if you need a family in the first place for that, that means the whole basis of existence is suffering. Otherwise, you wouldn't need the family to protect you from that.
Well, the family and the frame, they help you metabolize the pain not as suffering, but as like greater reason for gratitude,
so
growth, healing. Of course the pain is. Yeah, that's why I was saying it's semantics. Like, I'm not disputing the pain. I think I'm pushing back against operationalizing it in, I think, more of a moral frame. Like, pain is just pain. Suffering means you're making meaning of that pain, which is, this is bad.
Yeah.
Right? Like, technically, if somebody is a masochist who gets off on pain, they are not suffering from that pain. They are enjoying that pain, right?
And in a distorted sort of way.
Yeah, yeah.
And in a false way.
But like, yeah, I think it just depends on how you define suffering.
Well, I think, here's the thing, though. Like, you can't erase bad. Like, especially in this matrix, like, good depends on bad, right? So, like, bad is inherently intertied with good. Like, this is, like, the yin and the yang of reality, basically. And I think
well, the funny thing is, it's almost like it's like a moment where, like, the student is trying to become the master. That, like, you always talk about how we need to transcend the duality.
Yep.
And almost that, like, that can only happen in the infinite, and like once we're beyond this realm. And what I'm trying to argue is that you can do it now.
You could, but to even get there, you have to go through that rites of
passage, which
is the suffering.
Okay, so I've evolved, and that's why I can transcend good and bad, but you're still stuck in the unconscious state.
That's the trap of duality. Is the only way beyond the suffering is through the suffering, and then it's no longer suffering.
Yes, okay.
But we can never start like that unless you're born as like an enlightened divine being.
Yeah.
Such as like a Jesus Christ or a Bodhisattva, or one of those people who will come back enlightened already. But to get in that to that enlightenment, which within our fallen state, we have to climb back from our fallen state.
Yeah.
And the family guides you towards that rites of passage.
And I would argue it just creates enough safety for you to be able to learn the proper lesson from the experience.
Yes. And even though,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, without a traditional form or a religious basis, even the family cannot protect you, because then the family is just its own little matrix trapped within a greater void of nothing.
The stronger you're connected to something that is unhealthy, the more deeply you're actually disconnected from God and yourself.
So like a dysfunctional family.
Exactly, right.
Yeah.
So it's not about connection, it's about good connections.
Precisely.
I can overly connect to a team that I support where it moves from connection to identification, where it actually becomes an extension of who I am, and that actually weakens me and disintegrates me, even though it's a connection.
Yeah, this goes back to alignment, proper alignment with reality. And that's why, again, like the paradox of duality, the only way through to transcend illusion is through it.
Yeah.
There's no hiding from it. There's no escaping it.
Yeah.
And then once you get through the illusion becomes real by aligning with all of reality properly again.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's just that beginning state of illusion, which isn't really what it is, but yet it's there, and it's almost like our test or trial. And that's when you even, to your point, transcend suffering, because now it's no longer suffering.
Yeah.
It's a realignment with love, harmony, higher principles that are greater than suffering. The suffering is subsumed and made into something that it's not, which is just love or betterment or harmony or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get what you're saying.
And we've talked about this before, to resist the urge of becoming the, I love the expression, none so righteous as the recently converted. And there is this notion of like a person who finally gets free from an addiction, they need to see everybody as an addict, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just a silly little trick the mind plays in order to cope with the fact that they had struggled for so long. So I think it's tempting to say something like, that good girl who never experienced suffering or never had to earn her development, that somehow that's a lower resolution or lower level of awareness or consciousness. But I think it's possible that some do it by fire and some do it by peace. And the person who had to lose everything and rebuild it from the studs and had to learn painful, unsupported lessons, they don't necessarily have a deeper understanding, because that good girl, she might have just been in such a safe place that when she had the minor pains of her life, she was able to learn the same lessons that you did.
Well, I think the minor pains would be equivalent to Job's suffering for just based on how connected she is.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So if you're a sensitive person,
yeah,
the loss of innocence is the rites of passage that is enough.
Absolutely.
And you don't have to be Job to lose your family,
right.
to lose your riches,
right.
Or even be Jonah in a whale.
Yeah.
Like, that is reserved for certain people and certain destinies, right? But
and it's not a necessity. We don't even know that that's necessarily preferable, that some people have to. It's just normal distribution. Like some people are going to suffer a lot, and some people are not.
The bad boy, he's not going to... Whatever causes suffering to the girl is not going to be suffering to him.
Right.
He's going to think it's normal. It may even bring him up, like he may be a masochist.
Probably enjoys the things that disgust her.
Exactly.
As evinced by the fact that a normal person, if they eat too big of a meal, they're sick to their stomach. The other person is like, oh, I can finally breathe again.
So unfortunately, the bad boy may have to become a drug addict, overdose on heroin, and barely survive to find God, if he ever finds God.
Right.
The good girl, like we said, and since this is embedded in just our human condition, the loss of innocence, that may be enough for her just to truly become conscious of what good is after that loss of innocence, right? But that contrast, so,
Interesting.
Yeah, that was a really good example.
What, the good girl, bad girl, or bad boy?
Or I think the whole formulation. That was really good.
Yeah, so Rob and I think we come at this from different perspectives. I'm glad I at least have some kind of frame through which I could actually engage with your ideas more. Like, I don't know if you noticed, this was like a different conversation than we've had in the past.
Yeah.
Simply because I think I have more buy-in to what you're saying.
Yeah.
And, to whatever extent it feels like I'm, pushing back or critiquing, it's more so I'm just trying to get us on the same page, right?
Yeah. That's what's interesting too is like, even going back to like the paradox of duality, it's like almost like flip after flip after flip, because that's what this existence is, right? So even like going back to that idea of like, okay, so suffering is founded on existence, but existence itself is an illusion when it's detached from greater reality.
Right.
So therefore suffering becomes an illusion once everything realigns and restructures, right?
Yeah.
So it depends on how much we connect the structure to the ultimate picture.
Yeah.
Of which there really is none, because we're trapped within the limitations of conception. So I think we're just expanding the picture more and more each time.
Yeah. Yeah, I like this. It's kind of a funny notion that it's like the person who isn't conscious, let's see, how do I want to say this? they're not even aware of the duality. The person who's caught in the duality is so ensconced in it that they cannot escape it.
Yeah.
And then the person who finally understands the nature of the duality, they're able to rise above it.
Yeah.
So it's almost like these two levels seem like the same, and these two are at rest.
Yeah.
Either you're not aware of it, or you were so hyper aware of it that you became beyond it, and then everybody else is in the middle, like struggling with it. And I actually, a law student told me that at one point. I thought it was such a clever formulation. He was like, I was asking about if he struggles with something, and he's like, I just think that's either like kind of below me or above me, and like it's just not on my frequency.
Yeah.
And in that regard, it's like that is something that could give you a certain form of peace.
Yes.
Like some people are just like, they never become conscious because whatever it is in this world is pacifying them enough.
Definitely.
And that's why it is true. If you are on that lowest level and oriented in the wrong direction, you are better off going through that process than not.
Definitely.
But even better is if you didn't have to go through that process, but life puts you through it necessarily.
Yeah, and there's different orientations because, for instance, like even with the rites of passage of the loss of innocence, in that regard, suffering becomes a good thing.
Yeah.
Because it's actually making you conscious, and in the long run, you are growing, you are becoming aware of higher reality, blah blah blah. So that even transforms consciousness outside of that moral scheme of good or bad, right? And that's really the goal, is to transcend that duality. And I think that's sort of like the warrior's path, whereas suffering is nothing to many, or even the ascetic or the stoic. Like they make suffering something to be conquered.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So even in that regard, there's different orientations. Like there's obviously like the lover, the warrior. There's even like the guilds who use their crafts as microcosms to realize higher reality. So I guess there's probably just as many infinite ways of orientation and rites of passage of as there are people, right? So we just gave one very elaborate example.
And what I'm trying to arrive to is the notion that it's just all information, that all experience is a teacher. And the more you resist it, the less you'll actually learn and grow from it, right?
Yeah.
And that's why your worst, you hear this as a fun cliche, like you learn more from losing than from winning. Winning just causes you to repeat what you're already doing. Losing causes you to reevaluate your strategies.
Yeah,
right?
and that's another example of the limited duality, is like when losing is just defined as bad or stereotyped as bad, it's like you're missing the point, right?
Yeah,
like
same thing with pain.
Yeah. Yes.
And that warrior, he uses the pain as instructor. He says, I need to make meaning out of this pain. And that's what that's what cuts against this notion of there being suffering. If you can somehow utilize all pain to make you better, then where is the suffering? Now, this is a different conception of suffering, right? One that is inherently of a negative valence. Like you probably wouldn't say all suffering is bad.
No.
Right, because you're using it in the way I'm using pain.
Yeah.
Whereas I think somebody else would try to say, well, there's necessary suffering and unnecessary suffering, and I'm like, we're kind of just talking about pain in that regard, but...
Yeah, suffering, like we said, it's kind of just like a rites of passage, really. And then once you're beyond that rites of passage, it's kind of like getting over the illusion. Seeing through the illusion, getting through the suffering, whatever... it's all a part of the human condition and the human rights.
What is the illusion?
Well, whether it's the Matrix or any sort of limitation, it's basically just the absence of higher reality or the absence of awareness of God. So anything of that, really any limitation. Yeah, because I mean, when you think about it, like every suffering is just being trapped in your own illusion, right? That I'm suffering because I don't have this money, or because I never got that girl in third grade, or because I'm gay,
Yeah, and it's that second order step from descriptive reality moving into a prescriptive or normative conception, right?
And don't get me
it's like, I don't have money. That doesn't mean I have to say, therefore, I'm a failure like my father thought I would be.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because it's almost, I feel like we're almost coming into this area too where it's like, now we're coming to the idea of like, should life be easy or should life be hard? And I don't even think that's a proper way to conceptualize it. But I think you have to keep, as to your point, as much information that is helpful in mind as possible. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, I would never tell like a kid that like life is going to be easy, because that's just as meaningless as saying life is going to be hard. Yeah. Right. I think I would respond to them based on what they tell me whenever they're in a situation. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But the absolutes and universals are important, such as like the spiritual foundations, spiritual forms, God, all those things that they'll definitely need as a foundation for anything. So.
Yeah, is life easy or is life hard? It's
like a relativity.
Really, right? Yeah, right.
It's like, well, tell me about your life and I'll tell you, right?
Yeah.
Because they could have the hardest life, but if they're happy, it's like, oh, you had a good life, you had an easy life.
I'm gonna have to write about this after this, but I like this notion that the moment you make meaning out of something, you are telling life what the lesson was supposed to be. Yeah. So you're actually not learning. It's almost like our example, you're either learning the move or you're talking to yourself about the move. Yeah. And if you have an experience, instead of saying like, I feel pain, therefore I shouldn't do this again, you should just allow it to tell you whether or not you want to do it again. Don't make a decision based off of it, based on your perception.
Yeah, life is really just being an explorer and finding the gems of hidden value, right?
And letting experience be the teacher, not through the prism of your personality or your past damage. It's just too susceptible. Yeah. Right? Any thoughts that you have, they're just too susceptible to previous constructions from other people that didn't have the right fit for your personality. Like if you're an explorer and you have a parent who is a small, fearful person and they try to implant those ideas in you, then they're going to cause you to develop programming that doesn't fit who you are as a person.
Yeah, that's why, like you said, meaning is the redemption of suffering. Yeah, I think what's in my personal equation, I think that's why
let's hear it.
I frame a lot of this, is like I never want to fear anything that's hard or suffering. So in that regard, like, I guess I would rather face whatever I have to face than like tell myself that like sort of like an optimistic sort of worldview.
Yeah. Because you're forcing it into making a certain meaning that it might not need or shouldn't have.
Yeah, and I think I just do have more of like that. Obviously, warriors don't exist anymore, really, but like more of a fighter's like interpretation of reality.
Yeah, because a fighter is not afraid of a challenge. He's ready for whatever challenge might arise.
Yeah, and we're never...
he lets it be what it's going to be. You know?
And I guess in a way, our bias is like, we're not expecting like unicorns, we're expecting like dragons.
Yeah.
But we, in a weird way, we want that then.
Yeah.
Right? So
you're the fighter, and I'm more of like a sniper who believes that I need to be able to like control and minimize risk and maximize the effect, because I want to control everything. Yeah, I don't trust myself to be able to handle the fight one-on-one.
You take out the dragon while it's a dot on the horizon before it gets too close.
Yeah, I think that's probably, or at least has been, more my orientation.
Yeah, interesting.
Fighter Rob and Sniper Steve, huh?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I think obviously one is a much better strategy for living than the other.
If you could combine them, always carry a sniper and a sword, right? Like Heracles, he had the bow and the club.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
because you need to be ready for both scenarios.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. So Heracles could take out something from afar, but if he got too close, he'd club him. So
and there probably are some situations you're better off taking out when at the earliest sign, because why go hand to hand with something that doesn't deserve it?
Yeah, I mean, unless you're a masochist and you really want to like risk death, which is obviously entirely unnecessary. So,
right.
No, yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty broad picture we painted there.
Yeah. Well, so this is how we're gonna go through this. It's gonna be lots of fun.
I told you. We
didn't
get past the first line
yet. Yeah. Right.
So I figured we'd start out with this. Let's see here. So this kind of exactly talks about sniper and sword, or bow and club. Mm-hmm. It is precisely Christianity's relation to life, in contrast to a scholarly distance from life, or the aspect of Christianity that is upbuilding. So even in that line, he's already talking about the distance between life.
Yeah.
Right? So that's sort of interesting, and it ties into everything of how we say, like, the scholar, in a sense, the farther he gets through it in abstraction, is actually killing it.
Exactly.
He's making a corpse of reality, of something you should experience head on. Mm-hmm. So then he says, in the mode of presentation, however rigorous, and he's talking about the scholar, I believe, however rigorous, is completely different, qualitatively different from the kind of science and scholarliness that is indifferent. And the scholarly distance, whose lofty heroism is so far from Christianity and from being true heroism, that it becomes a kind of inhuman curiosity. So yeah, this ties into exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, right.
So it is Christian heroism, a rarity to be sure, to venture wholly to become oneself, an individual human being, this specific individual human being, alone before God, alone in this prodigious, strenuous, and this prodigious responsibility. But it is not Christian heroism to be taken in by the idea of man in the abstract, or to play the wonder game with world history. I love his phrases. I mean, there's phrases that I would totally use, like the wonder game of world history, where you think you're your own God as a scholar, and again, controlling everything, right? This is how history happened.
I know.
This is the meaning of it.
I know.
This is all we need to know. So let's shut off our minds and indulge in this unconsciousness of this little contained matrix I just created. So all Christian knowing, however rigorous its form, ought to be concerned. But this concern is precisely the upbuilding. Concern constitutes the relation to life, to the actuality of the personality, and therefore earnestness from the Christian point of view. And then, and this is just the preface. So he says, let's see. There is a more formal style that is so formal that is not very significant, and once it is all too familiar, readily becomes meaningless. Again, the scholar. Mm-hmm. So then he finally gets into despair at the end of the preface, and he says, just one more comment, no doubt unnecessary, but nevertheless I will make it. Once and for all, may I point out that in the whole book, as the title indeed declares, despair is interpreted as a sickness, not as a cure. Despair is indeed that dialectical. Thus, also in Christian terminology, death is indeed the expression for the state of the deepest spiritual wretchedness, and yet the cure is simply to die to the world. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can either become a victim of death or choose your death.
Yeah. I would like to point out, too, the etymology of despair, which is important, because literally, spare is the root word for spirit. So you're de-spirited.
Okay.
Despair is truly a spirit, and it's related to desperate, which is literally dispirit.
Yeah.
Desperate.
You've lost your spirit. Yes. Yeah, that's why you're desperate, or that's why you're dispirited.
Yes. So even just putting it in that way, like that gives a very clear idea of what despair is. It's not so much related to even psychology. It's really a deeper about the spiritual condition. It's like a part of you, and that's why, as we'll go into here.
So it's the disconnection of the spirit.
Yeah.
So when I talk about that level, that's a different type of disconnection.
Yes, and that's why he even said in the first part,
despair.
The despair is that the guy can't die, right? He wants to die at this point because he's already lost his spirit, and this biological existence has become just defined totally by suffering.
Yeah.
And he wishes he could give up the suffering, but he can't. And
Dracula.
Yeah, exactly. And that is truly the despair. Is his spirit's dead while he's still living. He's a Dracula or a vampire.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is also related, as we talked about, to the narcissist and all these other pathologies. Yeah.
Intriguing. Well, Thor is telling us that today's podcast is over.
We did.
At
least we got through the preface.
So here's the other thing. This is going to really bake your noodle. We could keep the once a week. You know your schedule best. We could truly do every day, every other day. We don't have to worry about a week.
Yeah.
It could just be whenever you want to do one, I'm down.
Okay. Okay, yeah.
So not to put pressure, and maybe I'll reach out and say, hey, I feel like it today, and
definitely.
No problem if you reject me, but like
we definitely had something to structure us. So.
That's what I'm saying. That as far as I'm concerned,
online now.
I'm trusting myself still, but yes, I'm infinitely closer than I was yesterday and then the day before. But yes,
especially with that's the rule. Like as soon as you put it on, that's when we have to do it. Like either the next day or the day after.
There you go.
That will keep us.
Okay, well then we're duly.
How motivating is that?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think part of the reason was I wanted to avoid polluting this with my ego.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, right? So in the past, I was creating for attention.
Yeah.
It didn't matter to me if I made something great. If nobody watched it, it sucked.
We're still trying to get the chicks.
Yeah, exactly. If I did something terrible, but I got a lot of attention, it felt better than if I did something great, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, I knew that risk in this realm, and I didn't want that to pollute me. So it was almost like I needed to give it space, that it's okay to create it for its own sake.
Yeah.
And I didn't want a lack of engagement to chill it.
No, I agree. I feel like like we talked about last week, it feels completely different now than like all that practice trial run we had.
Yeah.
We were kind of just finding ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
Finding our podcast selves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even that, there's just so much judgment. Like we've talked about it. Like when you're in my mind, it's just a very different place. Like me dropping a fork leads to I'm going to die alone through 8 successive thoughts that take place in 2 seconds.
Dante's
right?
stages of hell, basically.
Exactly. So
by dropping a fork.
So I've been trying to just be like gentle with myself and create space because, I just didn't want to sully this.
Yeah,
because
agree.
like, again, as we would say to each other, the chief utility of this is our own experience.
Yeah.
So if posting it would sully this somehow, it wouldn't be worth it, right?
Yeah, as soon as we feel sullied, it's done.
And that's why I just needed to create the space, give it time, and let's just say I feel really close, but I'm not gonna force it because if it's not fully ready, there's still danger there.
Okay, I'll leave it up to your monitoring. So
yeah. But, I mean, the cool thing is we definitely have, like, a catalog. I mean, I don't even know how many we've done. 20?
I like not knowing.
Yeah.
I even like that about writing. I don't like knowing how much stuff...
Well, because you quantify it and then you lose the meaning of it, right? Somehow 20 is less than 30. So if somebody else tells you they've done 30, you're like, oh, 20?
Now we have, like, this...
Hold on, baby.
We have this vault of the secret episodes of how Rob and Steve, the origins.
Well, that would be funny, is to like take down the other ones, start with this one,
definitely,
and then actually
that's what I would like to do.
Oh, is that what you would want to do?
Yeah, I want this to be the first one.
Oh, then I could do that now.
Yeah. Screw the old ones.
Okay,
those are like the vaults.
And then those are the vault. Oh, okay, I like that.
Those are all practice.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, those don't matter.
It's not that I have no problem with people seeing them eventually. Yeah, it's just.
This is the true structure. This feels
is the true
right.
structure, yeah.
That's the only reason why I want them up now, because it feels right. I don't want the other ones up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could do that.
Like I said, if we get to a state where this is going well and we want to do something fun,
like the vaulted episode. Right.
But yeah, those are all secondary. Those are all just practice.
Okay, I can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good.
This is a new beginning.
That sounds freeing.
A new beginning. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
New me, Thor. Why do you just look at me so lustfully?
He's dancing like a dancing bear.
Oh, yeah. What do you want, dinner? Do you want me to make you cheeseburger? You want Rob to go get us pizza? What are you hoping for?
Dude, I had Domino's yesterday for the first time I feel so fucked up from it.
Oh, it's gross, right?
Disgusting.
Do you remember when they admitted their pizza was crap and they were going to completely redesign it?
Oh, yeah, I do actually.
It was a huge marketing scheme. They're like, we admit it, our pizza sucks. We're going to make a new pizza. It's like, are you kidding me? How the hell didn't they go out of business?
I feel like I fell to Original Sin yesterday.
Oh, no.
That was bad.
Your tummy's feeling it
now.
now.
The cinnamon thingies.
Oh, yeah. Were they good? Ugh, I feel sick just thinking about it.
Masochistic type of good.
Oh, my God.
An unconscious good, Steve.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
What do you think, for we do Little Caesars? I feel sick just the thought of it. All food is so gross when you're poisoned.
Yeah.
It's all poison.
Yep, it is.
Okay, one love. Oh yeah. Okay.
So yeah, this is the new Robin Steve.
Nice.